I'm going to record on my computer. I just realized we weren't, so I think I have space for it.
All right. Hold on 1 second. We have a audit. Okay. Sorry.
Roll call, Bruce Thomas from Brooksit, and
Cole Real from the Greater Manchester Chamber.
Joyce Sears, commentary.
Andrew, Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission.
David Tilden, SNHPC.
Anthony Summers, Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission.
Tammy Joyce, Commission.
Staff of the commission.
Mike Quinn, staff with the, Manchester Transit.
Wow, and we hadn't had any luck getting a new planner, so now we have Mike Whitney as our planner. Excellent. Sylvia over with Von Aulock with SNHPC. And we can go around.
Nancy, introduce yourself. Nancy.
Oh, Lucy St. John, New Hampshire DOT.
Nancy Michaels, Dairy Londonderry Chamber of Commerce.
Vincent,
Pagano. I'm with Central New Hampshire Regional Planning.
thank you. Matt,
Wakens, Nashua Regional Planning Commission.
Mark,
Mark Sunan, Town of New Boston.
Jessica,
With Environmental Services Department.
thank you. And Jason,
Jason Clarkhorn, City of Manchester.
we get everybody? Suzanne, did we do you yet?
No, Suzanne Neighbor, SNHPC.
Kristen Clark,
Hi, Kristen Clark, City of Manchester Department of Public Works.
and Cam,
Everyone, Cam Perlman with the commission.
thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna skip the review of the notes because we don't have a quorum. So under new business, this Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission Title VI program. Recommended adoption to the MPO by name. Southern New Hampshire.
Okay. Let's see. Let's see if I can figure out how to do this correctly the first time. I make no promises. Okay. Yeah. How about this? Can everybody online see this in full screen mode?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. That. Okay, so I'm just going to walk through, included in all of your packets for this meeting was an updated Title VI program. I'm going to walk through some of the highlights of the Title VI program and hopefully answer any questions that you may have about it. Let's start with what is a Title VI program. We, Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission, as a recipient of federal funding in the transportation federal funding, we are required to do our part to ensure that the programs and services that are provided by the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission are provided without regard to race, color, and national origin. That is Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And as part of our responsibility under Title VI, we are required to develop and maintain a Title VI program. When we're talking about Title VI, it is just race, color, and national origin are the protected classes. Things like disability or age or income, other factors are not included in Title VI. So everything that we're going to talk about today in the context of Title VI is related to ensuring that our services are provided without regard to race, color, and national origin. Let's see. So the purposes are fourfold as we lay out in our Title VI program to ensure that the level and quality of transportation service is provided without regard to race, color, or national origin, to promote the full and fair participation of all affected populations in transportation decision-making. Third, to prevent the denial, reduction, or delay in benefits related to programs and activities that benefit traditionally underserved populations. And 4, to ensure equal access to programs and activities by persons with limited English proficiency. We're going to talk much more about limited English proficiency in a few minutes. Our Title VI program must be regularly updated at least every 3 years. So this is not a new effort. We've had a Title VI program in place at Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission for many years, and we are going through the regular process that we do to update that. I will say that our Title VI program, of all of the documents and programs of the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission, may in fact be the one that gets the most regulatory scrutiny. We have multiple sections of New Hampshire DOT that review in detail our Title VI program, including the Bureau of Rail and Transit and DOT's Office of Federal Compliance. Every 4 years, we go through a Metropolitan Planning Organization review that's led jointly by both Federal Highway Administration and Federal Transit Administration. And both of those agencies, Federal Highways and Federal Transit, look closely at our Title VI program through those review processes. So we do get lots of eyes on our Title VI program from a regulatory perspective. We released the updated draft Title VI program for public comment on June 23rd. We are in our 30-day comment period as we speak, and that comment period will run through July 24th. If anybody comments to provide on our draft Title VI program, obviously we're here today and welcome any comments that you may have through the course of this meeting. But aside from that, anybody is welcome to submit comments by mail or email to me and at my email address, nmiller@snhpc.org. Next week, our MPO will hold a public hearing to consider adoption of the Title VI program, the updated Title VI program. That will be Tuesday at 11:30 a.m., July 25th. What is encompassed in this Title VI program update? First is that we expanded the service area of our Title VI program to a total of 21 communities. So in previous Title VI programs, we just covered the 14 communities of the SNHPC region. This new Title VI program encompasses 21 communities. Why did we do that? Well, we serve as the lead agency for FTA Section 5310 funding for elderly and disabled transportation services for the entire Regional Coordinating Council area. That Regional Coordinating Council area is bigger than the SNHPC region. It is actually includes a number of communities in Rockingham County, including towns like Salem and Plastow and Danville and Sandown. We needed to make sure that all of the communities that we serve in that 5310 capacity for are included in our Title VI program. And that's notwithstanding that those towns are included in the Rockingham Planning Commission's Title VI program. They must be included in ours as well. So that's one of the big items in this Title VI program update, was expanding our service area to 21 communities. We had a number of changes. A significant portion of the Title VI program, if you actually read through the document, is a complaint form and a complaint process and a set of procedures that we will abide by in the event that we ever have a Title VI complaint. Those are federally required elements of any Title VI program. We work off of sanctioned templates that the state and its consultants develop to make sure that all of our I's and T's are dotted and crossed. And so we had a number of, I would say, minor non-substantive updates to our complaint form and complaint procedures. Nothing significant. We're just making sure that everything, all of the wording and such, is in line with the approved state sanctioned template for those documents. We also, as you know, recently adopted an updated public participation plan for the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission. So we took this opportunity to make sure that our Title VI program reflected the goals and strategies that are outlined in that updated public participation plan, so that those documents reflect each other. And perhaps most significantly, in terms of the actual effect of what we're going to need to do as a result of this Title VI program update, is we updated our regional demographic data for our language assistance plan. The language assistance plan is one component of a Title VI program based on the most current available data that we have available to us, which in our case is the 2021 American Community Survey 5-year estimates. We'll talk much more about that in a moment, but basically we made sure that the regional Title VI program reflects the most current available demographic data that we have. A few highlights of some of the demographic data. So here are maps that include this now 21 town service area incorporated in our Title VI program. From minority population, minority residents comprise 14.4% of that 21 town service area. And most notably, that 14.4% average is exceeded in 24 census tracts in the city of Manchester. So largely when we're talking about where concentrations of minority populations live in the region, it is largely in the city of Manchester. There are portions as well, notable portions in the town of Salem, which is one of our expanded service area communities, but largely the city of Manchester is where the highest concentrations of minority populations live in the region. And when we discuss limited English proficiency populations, and we'll talk about what that is in more detail in a moment, 3.9% of the population of that 21 town service area has limited English proficiency. That is exceeded by 21 census tracts in the city of Manchester. So when we're talking about where concentrations of people with limited English proficiency live, that is also largely in the region in the city of Manchester. So what is limited English proficiency? It is defined as individuals who do not speak English as their primary language and who have a limited ability to read, speak, write, or understand English. Of that 3.9% of the population in our 21 town service area defined as having limited English proficiency, we know that just over 5,000 of those persons are Spanish speakers. Over 1,600 of those persons are French speakers. About 874 are Russian, Polish, or other Slavic language speakers, and 855 are Vietnamese speakers. We have data for many other languages, but the percentages get quite small after these 4 languages. Why are these numbers important? I want you to remember for a second 5,046 persons, 1,628 persons, and then 874 and 855. The reason that's notable is that federal guidance identifies a threshold of 1,000 individuals or 5% of the population, whichever is lower, to eligible to be served as falling in with a specific threshold that is called safe harbor. And for languages that meet that safe harbor threshold, we are required to translate vital documents. And we define what vital documents are. But as we think about what that threshold is, 1,000 persons, that basically means for us that we need to start translating into 2 languages instead of 1. Previously, we translated vital documents, public notices, and the like into Spanish. But because with this expanded service area, I'm going to go back a slide, we have 1,628 persons that are French-speaking LEP population. That means that they are French speakers are above the safe harbor threshold in our service area as well. So that means that we now need to translate, and have already started doing so, translating vital documents into both Spanish and French to meet that safe harbor requirement. Yeah.
Quick question. Maybe I'm splitting hairs, but on the French language, is it not your traditional French Canadian anymore? Is it more than French speaking from some of the Caribbean islands?
Yeah.
Given the minority population.
We don't. So I've simplified it and said French speakers here. The actual classification of that category in the census, I believe, is French, Haitian, or Cajun, or Creole. I forget. It's French, Haitian, or Creole. But it's actually three kind of distinct sub-French dialects rolled into one that we consider to be French for our purposes. The census is a little bit more detailed, but yes, yeah. Right. So we, in this context, for the purpose of what we're doing here, we are considering French, Haitian, and Creole to be French for the purpose of translation. Presumably, I mean, they're lumped into that category in the census for a reason, because, you know, it's into, yeah.
It's like the Chinese.
Actually, Mandarin and Cantonese have the same writing. It's just, you could look, if you have the same Chinese writing, a Cantonese person and a Mandarin person can read that writing exactly the same. They will pronounce the words completely differently, but the actual writing and interpretation of that is the same. So yes, so we will translate vital documents now into both Spanish and French, and that's probably the single most significant takeaway of this Title VI program update, is that new translation threshold that we're meeting. What are vital documents? We define those in our Title VI program as our key Title VI notice to the public, complaint form, and brochure, as well as all of our public hearing and public comment period notices for SNHPC metropolitan planning products. So when we put the public notice out for our 30-day comment period on the Title VI program, we also had a Spanish translation of that public notice, as well as a French translation of that public notice that are posted on our website as well, because we consider those public notices to be vital documents in this context.
So Nate.
Yep.
With that last bullet, is that where you would capture like the UPWP?
Yeah.
As a public hearing?
So yes. So in our public participation plan, we identify all of the federally required planning documents and what their comment periods and notices are. So if anything has a formal comment period, and some of the comment periods vary, our public participation plan must be 45 days under law for a comment period. Our tip amendments may be between 10 and 30 days. A lot of our regular plans and products are 30-day comment periods, including this one. So anything that is that we define in our public participation plan as requiring a comment period as part of our planning products, we would translate the notices for those accordingly.
So would it be just like the UPWP, for example, would that be just the public notice of the hearing, or would it be the actual document that the public hearing is about?
We've defined vital documents in that context as being the notice of comment period. We would translate the full document upon a request to do so.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Some other language assistance items that you'll see in our Title VI program, we do have a binder at the front desk with what are called I Speak language cards. So it's basically all sorts of lines of different languages on paper, cards that say, I speak this language. And so somebody could look at that binder, comb through which of the languages applies to them, and be able to point at it and say, this is the language I speak. And then we would know what language they speak, and we could arrange for telephone interpretation. If a member of the public happened to walk into our office and they spoke Polish, and nobody in our office speaks Polish and can't respond to that person's inquiry, we would give them the I Speak binder. That person would go through, find the Polish line, be able to point to the Polish line as the language that they speak, and then we would contact either the language bank or language line to have somebody come onto the phone to be able to provide interpretation services for that person. We have never in my time here had such a request where somebody came in to the office and spoke a language that we don't speak internally already. But in case that scenario ever happened, that's how we would handle it. We've also incorporated Google Translate. So at the top of our website, you'll see a Google Translate widget. Google Translate isn't perfect, but it is a nice tool. And so you could go onto our website, pull that Google Translate drop-down menu from their widget and select whatever language you speak, and that will help, should help really simplify how people who speak a different language are able to navigate the website. It may not be perfect, the Google translations, but you should be able to figure out where you need to go to find something you're looking for. Should be quite helpful on that front. And again, Mike, back to your question, we will take other documents upon request. So in addition to posting our Title VI program for a 30-day comment period, we did send direct invitations to multiple offices at New Hampshire DOT, as well as Federal Highway and Federal Transit, to review and provide comments as our regular. We wanted to make sure that it was brought to their attention that we released this Title VI program update, and we welcome their comments on them.
Get a lot back from FTA.
I have not gotten anything back from FTA yet. The comment period is still open. New Hampshire DOT, Bureau of Rail and Transit, their consultant, RLS and Associates, who does a lot of these reviews on their behalf, did review ours. They did not offer any comments. We will, just through a discussion with them, we will on our own accord include a listing of our TAC and MPO members as an appendix in the final document. We've done that in the past. That's a good transparency item. It wasn't in the draft, but it's a simple thing to include in the final document. The public comment period, as I note, runs through July 24th, and so today would be a fine opportunity for anybody in person or online who may have comments on our Title VI program to provide those comments now. But if you don't have comments and you think of something tomorrow or over the weekend, feel free to send me an email or give me a call, and I will walk through those comments and make sure that they're recorded for the record. But that's it in a nutshell, kind of the brief overview of the Title VI program update. And like I say, I'm happy to take any questions or comments if there are any.
Any questions or comments? Anybody out there have any questions or comments? All right, well, thank you.
We would welcome, actually, we can't make a motion on that.
No, but I see what we did the last time we were before.
We could, is there a consensus of the members present today that we would recommend to the MPO that the MPO adopt the updated Title VI program on Tuesday?
Even though we haven't finished the comment period, the major update changes that you proposed seem reasonable to me. Thank you very much.
I know we can't, I'll second with his comments as well. I see a show of hands of those who would agree to a consensus.
Do we want to check the online?
People online, I see it. People report in online if they approve of this program. They get thumbs up.
Got Nancy.
Sure. It was a little hard to hear what was being said.
If people check in if they approve of this program as presented.
We're just taking a consensus. So if a thumbs up, it's just a consensus because we can't take an actual vote. All right. Maybe other people have stepped away, but.
Well, in any case, we're not hearing any concerns from folks. So. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, Southern Hampshire Planning Commission model completes streets policy by Tammy Zawoyski.
For a forum?
Yes.
We have Jeff. Yeah, and just for the record, also Tracy from CART is here, so we have 7 in the room. Missing a quorum by 1, so. Well, you know.
Okay, we're ready?
We're ready, Tracy. Oh my God. Damn it. That's Tracy, you're good. Yeah, practically twins. I can get that.
Okay, I'm going to be giving you an introduction to the Complete Streets policy template that we will be developing for our communities. The term Complete Streets has actually been around for almost 2 decades. It was coined in 2003, according to the internet. So when we think about complete streets, we often picture bike lanes, sidewalks, you know, that lovely cross-section diagram that planners love to use. But when you step back and look at the actual concept of complete streets, it's really about creating healthier, more prosperous places for people to live and thrive. There are numerous benefits of complete streets, including improving safety for everybody, improving the air quality, fostering economic development, improving equity and health. We look at quality of life and aging in place and remaining independent in your own community, creating community connections, not just physical, but social as well, and placemaking. So complete streets create vibrant communities. So as I just mentioned, we will be developing a complete streets policy for all of the communities in our region to consider adopting. So we will be creating a template for a complete streets resolution, which is the first step to creating a policy. And a resolution is an official statement of support for considering the needs of all users in transportation planning and projects. So if anyone has ever submitted a request for a declaration from the mayor or the governor's office, it looks very similar. It has a lot of whereas statements. So those outline the steps that will be taken to achieve on-the-ground transportation improvements and community-wide benefits. And the resolution concludes by citing and officially adopting the Model Complete Streets policy, which we will also be providing a template for. So the policy itself details an effective process and includes specific actions that are designed to ensure that complete streets are routinely considered in all transportation decisions. It also includes implementation mechanisms and best practices, including establishing a complete streets advisory committee in your community, conducting complete streets audits of official guidance documents that you use, identifying benchmarks for annually evaluating your progress, and adopting project implementation checklists, which we will also be providing templates for. And then the final step is a complete streets ordinance. So as we know, ordinances are regulations, so it's a good way to codify your complete streets policies. They also ensure that subsequent administrations will continue to follow the complete streets policy procedures. So it's really looking at a long term. So complete streets ordinances should include all of the elements of the model policy to ensure that they result in complete streets implementation. So our policy template will include an intro to complete streets, and we'll also elaborate on some of those benefits that I just mentioned. And then we will have a step-by-step process for adoption. I'll also include a graphic that shows the differences between the resolution, the policy, and the ordinance that we just talked about. And we'll also look at context-sensitive design and see how that plays into everything as well. We will have a section on the complete streets that are already existing in New Hampshire, and we'll also take a look at rural, suburban, and urban contexts, since they all might be slightly different. And then we will actually include the template for the resolution and the policy. And then we'll also have a section on tools and resources, including funding. So once we do all of that, we will help everybody to customize the template for your community if they're interested. So we'll work with you to develop and fine tune your vision and determine why and how you want complete streets in your community. We'll help with coordination between agencies because as we all know, some facilities are state-run, some of them are local from your municipalities, so we'll help with some of that coordination. We'll also talk about community buy-in, so obviously you want to include your selectmen and the other decision makers. We will help you identify performance measures and come up with a strategy for documenting those. We'll look at the exceptions to the policy and we'll also develop a prioritization plan. And I highlighted that one because another one of the projects that we will be working on in this UPWP cycle is a prioritization plan of all the complete streets projects in our region. So we can easily use the same methodology to apply that to your community specifically. And then we'll also be providing templates for the complete streets checklist. So we plan on making one for concept development, preliminary engineering, construction, and maintenance. Once your community has adopted the policy, we will offer guidance on forming a complete streets advisory committee in your community. We can help you with benchmarks and data collection. And we can also help you with your annual report to the decision makers. So we don't want to do this alone. We would like to form a TAC Complete Streets subcommittee. I don't envision it being a huge time commitment. I would like to meet maybe 2 or 3 times over the course of this project. In the beginning, I would like to meet with you all and discuss some of the benefits, barriers, and opportunities in your communities when it comes to complete streets. We would also really appreciate feedback on the considerations for rural, suburban, and urban communities. Once the draft templates are available, we would love if you can review and comment on those. And then after that, we would like to have another meeting where we would talk about how we present all of this information to decision makers, whether that's SNHPC coming to your town meetings and doing a presentation, or providing you with slides or talking points, or even recording a video that you can show. And then we would like to gather case studies from around our region and write new ones. So if we have a great success story from one of our towns, we would like to publicize that. So our next steps are going to be researching the existing policies in the state. So our staff will be doing that. We would like to convene the subcommittee and then expand on the policy template outline that I shared earlier. So that's all I have today. Is anybody interested right off the bat to join the Complete Street Subcommittee?
Right off the bat is hard.
Yeah, we can take time to think about it. I'm going to be sending out an email with some of the information that I shared, you know, what's expected and the time commitment, see if anybody's interested.
Is anybody from the
Maybe
commission
stop
taking
sharing.
part
Sure.
in the Complete Streets community project over the next 2 days? For Beach and Maple?
Yeah,
Like a planning shred, there's a whole public piece Saturday, because Alderman Fajardo is really into that and may be willing even to be on the sub. You can get an alderman. At
that's a
least
great
from
idea.
Manchester, the odds of this ultimately becoming an ordinance.
That's a great
Yeah.
idea.
Myself and Zach will be there both Friday and Saturday.
So it may be worth trying to pull her aside and just kind of talk, because she's clearly interested in the concept.
Right. Yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you.
Anybody online interested? We'll keep bugging people, obviously.
Imagine the Southern Hampshire Planning Commission has a lot of information on the website about this. So we-
On our work that
we-
Tammy just did.
it's not that-
Oh, we have a toolkit.
So good resource.
It's a great resource, yeah.
Any other questions? Questions out there? Thank you.
Thanks, Tammy.
Next on the agenda, bicycle pedestrian gated. Southern Hampshire.
All right, can everybody see this online?
Yep.
All right. So, good morning, everyone. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about how we display and share our bike ped count data. You've heard in the past, you may have heard presentations about our bike ped counting program, so I won't get into too much of that detail. But we will go into just one slide here.
And hit the ... and then hide floating meeting controls.
All right. So why do we count bikes and pedestrians? We've been doing this for a few years now to establish how many people are using our sidewalks and trails, capturing seasonal trends, which are, as you can imagine, can be pretty notable. Another reason we do it is to justify grants such as TAP. It really comes in handy when it's time to evaluate applications, when we have data of how many folks are using a given facility. Where we count, you can see on this map, we now have 40 plus trail locations at which we've counted. Those are the blue dots. And then 20 plus sidewalks, most of which are in Manchester. You can see the little blow up there. We've counted in 11 of the 14 SNHPC communities. We take town requests, but we also, in the absence of that, we have gotten together as a staff to determine trails that are most connected, excuse me, to others, like Wyndham, Derry, Londonderry, the trails in Manchester, Goffstown. We've prioritized those, but we've also counted other trails such as Hooksett, the Bedford Heritage Trail. We've done the New Boston Rail Trail. So we've done a lot in the last few years. We have two types of equipment, our eco counters, which we purchased one in 2017 and another one in 2019. Those capture directional data. So folks going either way on a trail or sidewalk will be captured on the infrared camera or the infrared sensor. Trafex is a newer type of counter we've purchased that does not capture directions. Those are currently deployed on the Wyndham and Londonderry rail trails as long-term installations. Whereas the eco counters, we move around the region in 2 to 3 week increments throughout the year. We will also occasionally do manual counts to calibrate our automatic counters, make sure the data look accurate. And yeah, as I've said, about 3 years ago, we started doing year-round counts. So in the winter, we do 3 week increments, whereas in the summer, it's usually 2 week increments. So getting into how do we currently display the data? You may have seen these are our standard one-page summary sheets that we've been using for maybe 3 years or so. So let's look at them in a little more detail. At the top, we have our location and the dates over here to the right. The 3-digit code, T stands for trail and S stands for sidewalk. That's so internally we can have a running tally of where we're counting. Our daily totals bar chart. So this count was done over the course of about 3 weeks. So each of these columns is 1 day. You can see that the fluctuation is pretty great. This time of year, this was a late winter, early spring count. So weather plays a huge part. It plays a huge part year round, but especially this time of year. And you can see some of those fluctuations. The overall summary over here, total traffic for the period analyzed, that's how many pedestrians combined for eastbound and westbound. The daily average, simply dividing that by the number of days. The hourly average, which is dividing daily by 24. And then we have this other measurement, hourly average between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. While that's not a perfect calculation, it gives a better sense of people using the trail during daylight hours. Obviously, in the summer, it stays light till 8:30, so you're losing people there. But in the winter, it just gives us a way to compare across the course of the year. And then over here to the right, we have our hourly profiles, both weekday and weekend. You may have heard me go through this before, but starting here, this is midnight of a given day. See, virtually no one's using the trail in the dark. Starts getting light, say 7 o'clock. And then in this particular case, usage goes way up in the afternoon. And on the weekend, it's a little different. The peak is more pronounced 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon rather than 6 o'clock after the workday. And it's interesting when you look at a lot of these, the patterns are very different on, say, the New Boston Rail Trail versus a sidewalk in Manchester. So it's interesting to take a look at these, which are all available on our website under the bike ped page. So now, since we've been counting for several years, we're thinking about changing up the way we report this data. The main reason, like I said, multiple years of data. Over here to the right, you see this is just a sample of locations at which we've counted multiple times. Most of these we've counted at the same time of year as well. So the Goffstown Rail Trail, for instance, we've done in July for 3 or 4 different years. And we have all this data, but we're seeking feedback on how to compare the data in a way that's the most useful. Here's a case study, the New Boston Rail Trail, June 2019 versus 2021. As I said, we try to put the counters out as close to the same time period as possible to get good comparison data. 2019 is the red bars here, 21 is the blue. You can see that the almost every day that we counted, the usage was higher in 2021. Part of that is just more people know about the trail, but also, as I said, weather is always a factor, which sometimes you have to go back and check. Was there a week of storms like this summer? We're seeing data is lower because of the poor weather we've had. But it shows what type of increases we've seen on that particular trail in 2 years. And over here, same type of chart as I showed earlier. This is weekday usage as well as weekends. 2019 is in red and 21 is in blue. We try when we make these charts to compare using the same scale on both. So it shows very quickly whether this is a recreational type trail where people are out there more on the weekends, or some people might use it to commute to work or just recreate after work. So pretty interesting graphic here. The weekdays, people are using it, looks like after work, 6, 7 o'clock PM, and it drops down sharply. And then on weekends, fairly consistent throughout the day in 2019, but in 2021, we saw a peak from about noon to 3 o'clock, and it dropped down. So again, it's interesting to kind of dive into this data and see what you can glean from it. Another thing we did in 2022 was a trail study of the 3 trails in Manchester, which were the Piscataquag coming in from the west, the Rockingham to the east, and the South Manchester Trail. For a period of 6 weeks, we placed 3 counters on each trail, 2 weeks each on each of the 3 trails. And then we put together the data and some observations. Tammy put together the report in a 12-page report that went through each trail, showed our daily charts, and then put together this little map showing how it compares the Singer Bridge, which is out heading toward Goffstown, versus the Piscataquag Trail over here by South Main Street. So this past spring, we just finished, we repeated the study, and we are going to start the report very soon. But before we did that, we wanted to get the TAC feedback on, especially Manchester in this case, what would be the most useful way to compare year-over-year data. We've also done other studies as requested by towns and the city of Manchester. On the right here, you see our counter at the Elm Street Car Show. This was done from 2017 to 2019. The car show was canceled for the COVID year, and we hope to resume that again this year. I think the car show is good to go. The Goffstown Pumpkin Festival, we placed a counter on the Goffstown Rail Trail, seeing who would be using the trail leading into the event. Pre and post development, this photo here is of the new apartment building on Elm Street across from Market Basket. We attempted a count there before. Unfortunately, it was not successful, but there's a lot of residential structures going up now around the region. So if there were one that we're interested in capturing a before and after on nearby sidewalks or trails, that's a good usage of the equipment. And we've also done town requests in Londonderry and Chester. And then this one here, this photo is from 2020. This was in Derry. They requested a count. This is the Economic Development Director, Bev Donovan, who requested a count at the Derry Rail Trail near Broadway. So all of that is leading up to, we want your input, sharing this data. Up to now, we've shared it with DPW staff and trail groups, but we think there's room for improvement on who we share this data with and how we get the information out there. Would a bike ped study be useful in your community? And if so, what types of data would be most useful? So that's what I had, and I was hoping we could open it up to comments if anyone has any feedback on any of this.
And we're stopped. Mark has his hand up.
Yep, Mark.
Hey, Adam, a couple of things. It didn't look like you're for rail trail specifically. It doesn't look like you're tracking separating peds from bikes. Is that true?
That's correct. Unfortunately, our equipment cannot do that.
You're just using the infrared for the eco counters, not the loops.
Yes, and we do have, I should have mentioned, we do have, with enough notice, there is a tube counter that is housed at Central Planning Commission that we have available to share around the state. So if a bike study specifically was requested, we could get our hands on that equipment.
Okay, and you mentioned certainly weather is an impact to the micromobility folks. Do you track the weather on those dates that you do have the counts?
We don't track it in a formal way, so we don't include that in the report, but anecdotally, if we see data that looks low, we will look at the weather and make a note of that.
So I'm going to suggest that may be something you look at in the future, is just tracking the weather on each day that you do the counts, just even if it's just temperature and condition.
Yep, it's great point.
And then the third thing and last thing, I'm doing work with NHDOT's Bureau of Traffic, which I know you guys do your vehicle counts and provide them to them. I know that they are updating their software, their MS2 software, over the next couple of years, and they're going to install a micromobility feature. So I would say that is an intermediate term location that you can start thinking about storing the data. And you might discuss with the Bureau of Traffic what format they'd be looking for to get the data incorporated into their system.
Yep, that's a great point. Thank you. Was there anything else from our count team in-house, Tammy or Dave, anything, or Cam, Suzanne, anything you wanted to add about any of this before we move off of it?
I just tell you that I think it's great, and I want to use it, but I don't have to really lead for it. That kind of stuff fascinates me, and I see that even if I want you to be encouraged, but when you feel discouraged, you don't think it's great. I think it's great. And I see that even if you don't feel it's being used now, having that baseline data is going to become very important. And we're going to be, and it's going to be there. And I hope you're able to continue and feel that it's valuable. If you don't think it is valuable, I hope you think it's valuable. It is valuable. I feel
Yeah.
valuable. I don't want you to stop, but I worry that you're gonna be discouraged because people are clamoring for more. And I think the reason they're not clamoring for more is the way to justify fixing their trail or upgrading their bridges doesn't quite exist yet. But it's going to exist, and then the fight for money is gonna come, and they're gonna want that data. So I encourage you without being able to say, yes, although I want you guys to come to my town. I don't think I'm not gonna get these, I'm gonna be the only one saying, yes, come to my town. More people don't recognize that they're going to wish they had this data.
Yeah, and that's part of it, like I said, is getting the word out within our towns more, and might this be useful? We have all this data, and I don't want to say we don't know what to do with it, but we need more direction, I think, from our towns, because we have it ready to go in these reports and whatnot,
It
so.
could be that the DPW people, or whoever's gonna be charged with fixing their trails, it's the Concom that pays for it, I don't know where the money's coming from, different trustment trails. In Francistown, a lot of the work is done by volunteers, we haven't really had to fall and fill yet. To get all the land trust conservancies, I don't know, maybe they need to be aware of it, maybe that's a good
Yeah.
document to PLC and had not said one of the North Van Awesome.
All right, thanks for the feedback.
It feels like a very
This baseline data, you have to state it was at the town had an advertising campaign for their trails. And you might see how effective that was.
Yep.
One of the things that the commission is interested in doing is making small video clips for information like this. So that we can showcase the kind of data we have, and we know it is valuable. We're not too worried about that. We know that when a community wants to go for a grant or some sort of funding, they usually turn to us for information or just support. And this is the kind of information that really helps a grant application. So we know it's valuable. Yeah, but thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
feels like that important trunk information, but that the kind of measurable stuff with the branches that grow out of it, like I would be really interested in one step beyond this, which is how much is access to the trails a barrier? The trails are great, but they're not all easy to ride to from some of the residential areas.
Right.
Some people may be able to throw the cars on their bikes. I'm not talking just transit dependent riders, but even, a family of four, if you don't have a vehicle large enough to transport 4 bikes, is that something that, public transit can kind of help bridge that accessibility piece? But I don't know, out of that count, where are they accessing the trails? Is that an actual barrier, or is it not?
Yeah, and we have talked about doing like mini interviews of folks when they're out there. Just nothing too personal, but where did you come from today? Just a general area. Were you able to access the trail? Okay, where did you, what type of transportation did you use to get to the trail? That sort of thing.
Or almost in reverse, because I feel like you'll self-select. People who are already on the trail for the interview don't have a barrier. They got there. But like working with some of the biking co-ops or the groups and who are people that are interested in biking but aren't using the trail, why that disconnect?
Right.
What's stopping them?
Yep, it's a great point.
Have you received any feedback on your transit to trails program?
We have, but that's mostly ambulatory use. We see very few bikers, but it's because it's going to state parks. But the weather has not helped this year. So we have the same problem. Our data at the rate this summer is going is gonna look like a terrible second year. Because it's every Saturday we've had a day, it's wrecked.
Yeah.
I was just happy to collaborate on some of the pre and post development. I think that's really interesting stuff. We're looking at economic development in the city, and then also just seeing the Goffstown Pumpkin Festival with the issues going on there with the possible dam being decommissioned recently. I know there's been a lot of talk about that, so I'm sure I know Joanne over there would probably be interested in those stats when they're talking with folks in the state.
Yep.
About that event.
Great.
wanted to follow, but when they say, like in Barry's case on a rail trail, about the maintenance, our public works department does that. You know, they clean up the trails, that's a common theme a lot of times. The other thing too, is a side thing, benefit, and I think Manchester's already doing it, but Derry started a senior group walking with the police department in the last few years. And this year it's like really taken off. I mean, it's amazing, which is a good thing. But they're on the Derry Rail Trail all the time now. It's seasonal, but the number of people interested in this are increasing. Again, the weather, but it's a side thing that's part of that pedestrian. How do you capture that? But it's become popular. You know?
Yeah, the Manchester has the same
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
and they're very popular. There's people from all over that come just to walk with the police department on Manchester Trail. All really good feedback. And anyone from the virtual audience? Oh, Cam's got his hand raised.
Hey, yeah, I just want to kind of build on what several folks have kind of mentioned, that, you know, the data we have kind of provides a good opportunity for education about the trails. We know in a lot of our other work that, you know, some people just don't know that these exist. And so this is just, you know, one more tool we can use to help get the word out. So, you know, I think we would definitely be interested in providing public works or, you know, whoever in town with some sort of like public facing flyers or summaries about the trail, about a recent count, you know, and where they could share it on their social media or something like that, you know, to just help get the word out and educate folks about the trail. So if that's something any town is interested in, I think that's something we would really like to do.
Thanks, Ken.
Anything else? Any other comments? Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Next on the agenda is traffic counting forms by Andrew Summers.
Okay. Little guidance on this first time. So get rid of mine. And we're gonna. There it is, yep. Awesome, thanks, Al.
So when we always check with our home audience, can you see the full presentation?
Yep.
Excellent. All right, well, good morning, everyone. I am Anthony Summers, field technician here at the Planning Commission. Today, I'm just going to give an update, progress, how we're doing this season with traffic counts. We'll start out with a brief overview of traffic counts, and then we'll get to the numbers. So our field team this season, myself and Andrew, our summer intern, that action-packed photo to the left, that's myself and Andrew out in the field. That's a counter. All of you may be familiar with that I have in my hands there. And then that's one of our tubes that I'm about to hook up to the counter. And then we also have David and Adam. They are part of the transportation, or part of the field team at the beginning and also at the end of our season when we don't have our intern with us. All right, so some counting basics here. For this season, we have 371 total counts. There are 207 New Hampshire Department of Transportation counts and 164 Planning Commission counts. We also, thus far, we've had 3 requests coming from 2 of our towns, 2 volume counts from Derry and then a speed count from Deerfield. Types of counts, predominantly we have 2 types of counts that we conduct. We have volume counts, and that's data that pertains to, we're just collecting information on how many vehicles are passing at the time of our collection, number of vehicles. And then we have class counts, and class counts collect information about the types of vehicles that are passing over our tubes and we're collecting. And this chart, this table over to the right, provides a breakdown of the 13 classes that we collect information on. Most common are class 2. This is right over there. We go. Class 2 passenger cars, and then all the way down to a class 13, 7 or more axles, multi-trailer, tractor trailer. Season at a glance. So we have counter locations in all 14 of our communities. Each week we conduct about 15 to 20 counts. Typically a minimum of 2 class counts per week, sometimes a few more. The season spans about 31 weeks, beginning in April and ending in mid to late November. And then by the town, we have, so this map basically gives you an idea, a layout of where our counts are located throughout the region. The blue pins are planning commission counts, and then the black, purple, and green, those are New Hampshire Department of Transportation counts. Purple counts and black counts are class counts. And then over here, this table to the right, this will provides a breakdown of counts per town. You'll see that Manchester gets the lion's share of the counts, and then all the way down to Deerfield, where the Planning Commission is conducting 6 counts this season. And then again, you'll see a total of 371 counts, 164 Planning Commission counts, 207 DOT counts. And by the numbers, Planning Commission counts thus far, well, as of the 18th, we have 77 counts completed and 87 counts remaining. And for DOT counts, we have 60 accepted counts. That means that New Hampshire Department of Transportation has looked at our data and they have accepted our data. So those counts are done, they're complete. Right now we have 16 counts that are waiting for New Hampshire DOT to either accept or potentially mark as a redo. And then we have 131 remaining counts. So we're at 29% accepted, 8% submitted, and 63% remaining to be done this season. And any questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, what would the DOT not like about it?
Yeah, so sometimes we have data that might be a little too close to their threshold for acceptance. So for DOT, they have a 30% margin of error. Our counts can be like volume counts, for instance. The number of vehicles can be 30% above or 30% below the average daily travel that the DOT has given us for a number for comparison. So if we were to send in data that might be at that threshold or above or below the 30% margin of error, then they would send it back to us and say, please put this back out, count again, so we can collect a little more data and check that against the data that we already have. That's one reason that might come back. Any others?
On a class count, if the class of vehicles doesn't look like a normal distribution, where class 2 is always going to be the highest, is cars and passenger trucks. If for some reason the number of larger trucks is similar to that of cars, it wouldn't, that's just not a realistic.
Actually, next question is, you showed that slide about the different trucks you identified, you identified whole slew of different vehicles. You do that with every traffic count?
We do not, no. So that's only for class counts, that we do that. That's correct. Yep, those fish. It's about 30% of our overall counts are class counts.
Okay. Why would you do that?
It's specified by DOT. Why they choose the locations they do, I'm not really sure, to be honest, but. Yeah.
Are you getting screwed up this year on account of the road lockout?
You know, we haven't had any issues with those, luckily. We've had some construction that has interfered. But yeah, that's we've lucked out as far as any washouts go.
Done a really nice job. The DOT ones obviously are really concentrated in certain areas, but the planning commission sites have kind of regionalized the
Mhm.
program. Thanks for
Yeah, we set up counters in each of our communities.
That's one of the few things raised down next to whose road should get traffic.
Oh, yeah.
Really? That's very, very popular.
Really?
One of
Wow.
those small weird things.
Well, you know, if someone really wants a traffic count, they can request one. Well, it's not uncommon when there's, for example, a planning board case. And there's, this has happened, you know, when there was a development regional impact between Candy and Chester. And it was a sort of off a dirt road. Or, you know, a road that was extremely rural and tight and very narrow. And so we did actually a speed and regular volume count there because we had so many people at the meetings screaming, oh, we have thousands of cars going a million miles an hour, you know, that kind of thing. And it did turn out that there were a lot of cars and they were going very fast. So it was really good that we did that. But yeah, for any of the communities, and you can stop sharing, we do those requests. And they can come from the police department, they can come from planning boards, it doesn't, just so long as from the community.
Just my thing, just FYI, I don't know how you could quantify it, but we get often calls from retailers with traffic counts and traffic numbers, so we provide your report for the commission here, but when a retailer, and I learned this, they look at community weather, particularly like we recently had like Starbucks, and we had Chipotle and Aspen Dental. And they're these corporate national people, and they call us and they want the traffic counts on particular roads. So we provide the commission's numbers, but I just said, well, that's another group out there that want to see numbers on roads and traffic counts, you know, and then they make that corporate decision whether they want to locate there or not. Right.
And do you send them to our map?
Yes, yeah, we
Yeah.
link you to your map, and then we have the reports that we got. And your reports are on the third page, but you'd be surprised how many retailers look for that stuff, you know?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I get it.
You know?
Yeah, they're looking for the numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mark has a question. Mark.
Yeah, so thank you. A couple of things. Do you feel that you're on time this year to complete all the counts, let's say before Thanksgiving?
I think I'll defer to Adam on that.
Yeah, we'll get them in before Thanksgiving. We can adjust we lost a week earlier on and we've had to deal with weather and whatnot, but I'm confident that we'll get through them.
And then I guess related to that, what is the restricting factor in getting counts done faster? Is it the equipment or the personnel?
I mean, we have had some counters fail this year, but we do have some backups. So we try to get ideally 20 out a week, and that with that pace that allows us to finish by November. Some weeks we only get out 17, but then there are weeks where the counts are clustered and we can put out 24 to make up for it. So I don't get too downtrodden when I see a week where we only have 15 out. Because we have ways of making up time.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? Okay, if not, I'm gonna pass the floor over to Dave for a quick presentation on a new Google form related to bike and ped data collection.
All right, thank you. All right, can everyone see this at home? Traffic data collection request form?
Yep.
All right, so this is gonna be the string that ties Adam and Anthony's presentations together. So at Southern New Hampshire, we're always looking for new ways to engage our communities and get input. And so one of the ways that we're doing this is we've come up with a traffic data collection request form and a bicycle and pedestrian data request form. They're both very similar, so I'll just briefly go through the traffic data collection request form here today. So in the next coming weeks on our traffic data webpage and our bike and ped webpage, you will see a button that if you click on it, will take you to one of these two forms. It's very easy to complete the form. I'm sure you've done them before in other aspects. The first 6 fields are just contact information, email, municipality, which is a drop down of our 14 communities, the town, the department requesting the data, the name, title, and phone number of the person requesting the data. And on the 7th field here, we have the reason for the data request. We put up a couple of examples of potential reasons for data requests, but you can put whatever answer that you feel is in there. This will help us identify the types of data that are needed for what specific project or issue we're looking for. Type of data request, we have a drop-down menu for the traffic count one that has 4 options. If you're not quite sure what type of data that you do need under these 4 options, or you need potentially more than one, pick one, submit the form. At the end, once the form is submitted, somebody from our staff will be contacting you to discuss these responses further, set up a date for the study. So the ones with the asterisks are required fields. So you need to put down an answer for one of these. The next one is a study location or street address. This is for more of your urban areas or places where it's specific. If you know that you have a specific street address or an intersection where you'd like the traffic count or the turning movement count to be placed, this would be the best place to put it for specific areas. If it's more of a rural setting, long stretch of roadway that does not have any cross streets or intersections, then you can put down additional information in this spot that will be such as geographical features, landmarks, anything that would help us better identify where to place the counter or to set up a turning movement count. This one is duration of study and the date. So I must emphasize that we will only keep our traffic count data, traffic counters out for a week at a time. This is for wear and tear on the equipment. But if there was a special event that ran over a weekend, that we would, we could deploy it on a Friday, pick it up on a Monday. This would be an area that we could put down a specific date and time. The next two are deadline and data request is time sensitive. This will help us prioritize if we get a number of requests in. This will help us schedule and prioritize requests to make sure that we give everybody the proper attention. And the last one is just notes. This is a general spot for putting down a general information, things that were not covered above or that would help us identify the type of data request that you need or the location of it. Once you hit submit, then a copy of the response will be emailed to the address that you provided. I will also get a copy, it doesn't show up here, but my email, a copy of this response will go to my email so we know that somebody has requested a count or a speed study or a turning movement count and the responses that they have put there. And the most important part is once you have submitted this, within a couple of days, one of our staff members will contact that person to go over the responses, coordinate a time and day in a location and make sure that we got all the information correct. This is, like I said, we have a bike and ped one that will be going up in the next couple of weeks that is very similar to this one. So please check our website often, and I hope you'll find this useful. Is there any questions? All right,
Questions? Thank you.
thank you.
Any other business? Other business, motion for adjournment? Well, I guess we can't have a motion. Consensus or consensus for adjournment.
Thanks, everyone, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Not in